hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Coxsackie-Elementary, we are excited to share with you something new that's going to be in our lobby. Right here at Coxsackie-Elementary, we have what's called the Curiosity Jar. And from now and until the next assembly, you'll have the opportunity to write down on a piece of paper or a Post-it, an index card, anytime you're curious about something, jot it down, put your name on it, and bring it on down to the jar, and maybe, just maybe, on our morning announcements, Mrs. Miller may share what you're curious about and give an answer to it, okay? So, Josie, Isaiah, and Parker are about to show us how this works. Josie, what are you curious about? Why do cats have bristles on their tongue? Oh my goodness, I wondered that too. Oh, you better put that in the jar and maybe that'll get answered in the morning announcements. Nice. Okay, Isaiah, what are you curious about?
Why do lions have manes?
Why do lions have manes? Oh my goodness, that's something I thought about too. Wow, I hope that gets answered. Oh, we wonder about so many things. Parker, what's something you wonder about or you're curious about?
How long did the moon take to...
Yeah, how far does it take to get where? Yeah, the moon. How far is the moon from planet Earth? Oh my goodness, we love all that space information. Oh, we are going to grow our brains. I know it. I love keep thinking, keep being curious. We can't wait to see what you're going to be curious about, and we'll grow our brains even more. Okay? Be on the lookout for the jar. Have a great day.
excited here at CE. Let's hear it.
And take me out to the ball game.
Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back, so it's root, root, root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Woo!
Cassidy, can you tell us what it means to be curious or to show curiosity?
Curious is like something that you wonder about and something you want to know more of. Like, if, for example, if you want to know more about a certain animal, you could be curious about it and want to learn more about it.
Melania, what does it mean to be curious or to show curiosity?
Like, maybe, like, if you really want to know about something, you might want to, like, ask somebody, like, someone who knows a lot about it. You might really want to know about it.
Jackson, can you give us an example of something you might be curious about?
How were French toast sticks made?
Where could you find out information about that to satisfy your curiosity?
Maybe a YouTube video about it. Or maybe you can go to the factory where they make them and ask the co-workers how they make it.
Is anyone curious about what is in these blue bags?
Yes.
Are you wondering what could I possibly have in these bags? All right. Haley, are you curious about what's in this bag? Okay, go ahead. Don't look, just feel. You can use 2 hands. What do you think that is? Don't. What do you think it is? Touch it. Do you think it's a cone? Hold it up. You can look at it. It is a cone. Thomas, are you curious about what's in this bag?
Yeah.
All right. No peeking, but you can reach in. Use your sense of touch.
A rubber ducky.
You think it's a rubber duck?
Yeah.
Pull it out.
Yes. I think because I felt this, I felt the head and the bottom and the tail, and I said a rubber ducky. It's a rubber ducky.
Ezra, are you curious about what's in this bag?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead, bend down. Don't peek. No peeking. Close those eyes.
Clock.
What makes you think it's a clock?
I could feel the arrows.
Pull it out. Let's see. You can feel the hands on it?
Yeah.
Did you know that there was a CE Shines Through to 2022 award for curiosity?
Yeah.
You did. Did you know that curiosity prepares our brains for learning?
No.
And that as we learn, we enjoy that sensation of learning. Did you know that?
No. Maybe.
Now, curious students ask questions, but they also use that curiosity to seek out the answers. They want to know more. So teachers, feed into your students' curiosity to help them learn more and remember more and to enjoy learning. And hopefully, you can nominate someone that you see being curious to learn more about a topic.
This is what community service did in a whole month.
My favorites is the Valentine's Day special.
All of the 4th grade made cards to give to seniors. Jackson is right. The cards were made for seniors.
Senator Hinty was very pleased.
We did soup cans too.
About the soup. We got 812 cans for the local food pantry.
And in this picture, this is Natalie Solano, Jocelyn Bulldog, and Andrew Favicchio. We are also planning to do a school pickup.
Yes, we are planning to do it all around the school campus.
Watch out, spring is coming.
Today, we're reading Jump at the Sun, the true life tale of unstoppable story catcher Zora Neale Hurston. It was written by Alicia D. Williams and illustrated by Jacqueline Alcantara. In a town called Eatonville, a place where magnolias smelled even prettier than they looked, oranges were as sweet as they were plump, and the people just plain old got along, lived a girl who was attracted to tails like mosquitoes to skin. Zora was her name. Zora got to loving tales from hearing the townsfolk swap stories at Joe Clark's general store. Oftentimes, Mama sent her over to fetch a little sugar or salt, and Zora would stall, make a 10-minute errand last an hour, just to overhear tales like how that trickster Brer Rabbit always got the best of Brer Fox. Only thing pulled her away was Mama calling. When there were no errands to run, and Zora couldn't get an earful of tales, she'd make up her own. She'd fashion dolls from scraps she found. A loose doorknob became Reverend Doorknob. The Do Not Touch pear-scented soap was carved into Mr. Sweet Smell. Ears of corn were hewed into Miss Cornshuck and Miss Corncob. Zora had stories to tell, and stories needed characters. And when Mama sent Zora and her stories out of the house, Zora'd perch herself atop their gatepost, calling out to travelers, "Don't you want me to go a piece of the way with you?" If a car stopped, Zora climbed right in. She'd have those people laughing like she was storytelling on Joe Clark's porch herself. Then, half a mile or so later, she'd hop out and stroll on home. Now, back then, some folks called storytelling telling lies. And if Zora's preaching papa got home from church and caught her spouting him, he'd give chase lightning quick. Even Zora's grandma aimed to sting her backside, but never could, not with Mama's arms stretched wide as tree limbs. Truth was, Mama approved of Zora's storytelling. She didn't fancy the idea of her children tilling land, so she encouraged Zora to jump at de sun. You might not land on de sun, but at least you'd get off the ground. Well, fact is, Zora clung to those words tighter than Brer Fox would have clung to Brer Rabbit, if he'd ever been able to catch him. Zora needed him too, 'cause one day, Mama got herself a chest cold that wouldn't get better. Then one September evening, Mama closed her eyes for the last time. Zora and her sisters and brothers were so sobbing-hearted that even the house seemed to mourn. 2 days later, Zora's only sister and an older brother headed back to school. Papa was already on the road preaching. His boys seemed manageable, but his tale-telling girl was too much for him to worry about. So 2 weeks after the funeral, he shipped Zora off to Florida Baptist Academy boarding school. Zora dug her nose in books, intent on reaching the sun. It was what Mama had always taught her to do, after all. Then her papa got a new wife who was stingier than a peacock. Zora's stepmother tight-fisted their money, school fees went unpaid, and back to Eatonville Zora went. To hear Zora tell it, back home, the walls were gummy with gloom. Were the little brothers in ragged, dirty clothes? This was wrong, and Zora made it known. Fussin' and fightin' commenced from the kitchen to the gatepost. Finally, her stepmother pointed to the door, and out stomped 14-year-old Zora down the dusty road. Though friends spared a pallet for sleeping, there wasn't time for Zora to be pondering the capers of Brer Rabbit. She had to earn her keep, but she was better at storytelling than holding a job. She was fired from maid jobs. for reading the employer's books instead of cleaning. She up and quit babysitting her oldest brother's children when he quit on his promise to let her go back to school. For 12 long years, she traveled from job to job, from Florida to Baltimore, in and out of schools. Zora was miserable, except for when she spooned out Eatonville trickster tales to whoever'd sop 'em up. And sakes alive, folks were hungry. The son, however, was getting antsy waiting on Zora. So he called down, saying, "Ain't you supposed to be meeting me up here?" Reckon Zora was getting antsy too. How was Zora to jump all the way to Old Big Yellow? By doing what made her happiest. And Zora was happiest at school and hearing those stories. In Baltimore, 26-year-olds couldn't go to public school for free. So Zora told a tale of her own. She chopped her age down to 16, then plunked herself down in a high school classroom, even though she had a lot less money than the other students. Zora walked through the halls like her shoes were lined with gold. That girl was back in school. Woo-wee! The son waited patiently for 2 more years until she graduated, then called out, "Jump, Zora!" So she did, to Howard University. The best part? All those years of tarrying around Joe Clark's and making up tales out of corn husks paid off. She shared her tales with the director of the Stylus, the college's literary club, and was offered membership. Zora not only wrote for their magazine, but the door opened to other events where she met successful writers like W.E.B. Du Bois, who wrote a book she loved, The Souls of Black Folk. Soon she got to thinking, I want to be a famous author too. So Zora jumped again. She got herself a typewriter, and her fingers got to tapping, and all her Eatonville memories poured into them pages. One of her stories was even about a little girl sitting atop a gatepost. Though Zora loved her schooling, she found she loved writing more. And at that time, new writers who wanted to get published went to one place. So in January 1925, Zora made her way to New York City. As in Eatonville, folks welcomed her. During the day, she listened to book discussions at the library or lectures at the YMCA. Come nighttime, Zora'd be swinging in Harlem, where Count Basic or Fats Waller pounded on the piano, and folks danced the Charleston. Once her feet were too sore for one more kick, Zora would hold court, surrounded by writers like Arna Bontemps, Fannie Hurst, and her best pal, Langston Hughes. Langston's poetry jumped at the sun for sure. If Zora's stories held the ears of these great writers, surely her mama was right that Zora could really reach the sun too. That spring, Zora jumped again. She mailed a handful of stories to a magazine's literary contest. Her words were so alive that the judges saw the moss on the trees, smelled the sawgrass in the Everglades, and heard the men chanting on the railroad. Then those judges began chanting Zora's name. A fancy college heard about Zora's storytelling and offered her admission. But if there was one thing Zora had learned, it was that school was expensive, and she didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. Zora was doubtful. "Jump, Zora," Mama's words sang. And wouldn't you know it, her jumping paid off. Barnard College offered her a scholarship. It wasn't much, but friends helped out. And Zora put together a collection of tales from home, called it the Eatonville Anthology, and earned a bit from that. For the first time in all her schooling, Zora was able to stay in school. For her very last semester, Zora had one big project left to do, fieldwork for her anthropology class. Anthropology is the study of humans and their behavior. Her professor, Dr. Boas, suggested that Zora collect Negro folklore. Now, folklore includes stories and beliefs passed down from generation to generation, exactly like the ones told at Joe Clark's. Shucks, Dr. Boas might as well have asked Zora to go down to Joe Clark's for some sugar. She had heard Brer Rabbit's adventures and why the squinch owl screeched since she was a baby. How many lumps of sugar had she fetched to hear about High John the Conqueror? Or how many times had her mama called, Zora? Of course she'd go collect some stories. Zora looked up to the sky. I'm coming for you, son. And the sun smiled down. I know. Zora drove into Eatonville, and even after she'd been gone for 22 years, the townsfolk still recognized her. Well, if it ain't Zora Hurston. They rattled off questions before she could even answer them. You going to stay for a while? Several months. Where are you going to stay? I reckon. What are you up to? I come to... Zora at last sat on Joe Clark's store porch. The townsfolk ate gingerbread, drank buttermilk, and commenced to woofing about John and the Frog, the man who went to heaven, and Jack and the Devil. As the mensfolk plucked their guitar strings, it's said that even the moon dipped lower to get an earful of tales. But outside of Eatonville, folks zipped their lips to the meddling stranger with a notebook and northern accent. To ease their minds, Zora spun a believable tale about her own self. I'm a bootlegger, running from the law. The folks then trusted she wasn't just snooping, and offered her a treasure of folklore. Zora's college project became one of her bigger jumps. Even after she graduated, she didn't stop collecting tales. She trekked all the way from Alabama to New Orleans to Haiti and the Bahamas, gathering as much folklore as a leper has spots. Then she stopped jumping, long enough to take her notebooks and tapes and find herself a home in Ugallie, Florida. There, on her porch, with papers spread out, Zora took her biggest jump ever. She set up her typewriter, and her fingers got to tapping all those tales into books. Then she tapped up her very own stories and made her own books, too. Zora, like her mama always dreamed, reached the sun. And now, when you open one of those books, it's as if you were visiting on Zora's porch, just like the porch visited all those years ago. She'd have offered you a chair and filled you full of High John the Conqueror tales, or told you that the talking mule lie she got from the Florida railroad workers. Of course she'd woof about that old Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox, too. And that sun would have beamed down, mightily pleased, just a listening.